For those of you who don't know, I was detained by Customs and Border Patrol. I was tactically ascertained and engaged in a kinetic situation where I was kinetically moved into a detention center inside of the O'Hare Airport, which I will tell you all about in a second. Oh man, didn't pass the ocular pat down. I believe it was before the ocular pat down. It's the flight manifest that they get ahead of time. They knew who I was and they were ready to receive me.
So for the 2 or 3 of you that don't know who he is, it's Hasan Piker, nephew of Cenk Uygur and founder of this network, TYT. I've known him since he was like a 12 or 13-year-old kid, and he's now a well-known figure in this world of online lefty political discourse. One of the things that he speaks out directly and accurately about is our involvement in Middle East conflicts, specifically this genocide of Palestinians.
First time ever getting into global entry. I got it after my brother yelled at me over and over again, telling me you gotta get global entry, whatever, right? I get to the global entry line and they're processing everybody expeditiously. You walk up, boom, immediately they take your photo of your face and you walk in and there's a customs person there, cop there, just basically waves you, okay? And they do that over and over again. It gets to me, take a photo, boom, walk in instantly. The Customs and Border Patrol agent goes, "Step aside, sir." I was like, here we go. All right. She goes, "Step aside, sir. An agent will come and take you to another location." I was like, is that proper protocol? It's like, sometimes it happens. I was like, okay. And I knew at that point, I was like, okay, I'm texting like family. I'm like, this is happening. I'm texting my manager. I was basically I got Lolo on. I was like, listen, I'm going in. All right. I'm freaking going in. Who knows how long this will take? Who knows what will happen? I had already heard like horror stories from people. There was like that one girl on TikTok that had talked about this, and I thought to myself, all right, it's done. It's happening to me as well. It is what it is.
So Haas went into extreme details of what he saw in that detention area, who else was there, and what he observed about their citizenship status. But the point of this entire ordeal is to shine a light on how and why they took him aside.
This agent comes out, says, "Hasan Piker." I'm like, that's me. Coming with me. I'm like, oh, brother, here we go. They take me to this back room. Okay. And the back room is not great. The back room is designed in the most hostile way I've ever been inside of a room. The vibes are really back there. Everything is fluorescent light bulb. Obviously, they had these 2 seats that were firmly planted into the ground. Okay. They were complete metal. They were like tiny stools, very uncomfortable, with like braces on the side so you can handcuff someone to them. Okay. It's very obvious that they knew exactly who the I was. It's very obvious that they knew how to like navigate the conversation. And it was a really, really interesting conversation that took place. It was very cordial. Okay. It was very cordial, which I thought it was strange how cordial it was. He always made it seem as though he was asking certain things that after discovering in the process of that conversation, he would ask additional questions. So, he's like, "Oh, what are you doing in Chicago?" And I was very revealing. I was like, well, I was in France because I want to take my family out for Mother's Day to France, but I had to come back early from France, even though today is technically Mother's Day, because I have a speaking engagement at University of Chicago. And he was like, "Oh, what kind of speaking engagement?" It's like, I don't know, some like journalism school stuff. And he's like, "Oh, well, since you mentioned that," he kept saying, "Oh, well, since you mentioned that, what do you do as a job?" And I was like, "I'm a Twitch streamer." And he's like, "Well, since you mentioned that you were a Twitch streamer, what kind of things do you stream about?"
It's time to realize that these kinds of tactics and interactions aren't as uncommon as we'd like to believe. The fact that this administration advertised this as their approach to suppressing opposing voices during the campaign is probably causing people to keep their mouths shut to avoid having to admit that they ignored their blatant calls for this fascist state. Remember, he mentioned a woman on TikTok that had her own story.
Because I travel a lot, I want to spread the word right now. U.S. citizens are still getting detained coming into the United States. I've seen a few TikToks about it from different people coming in, but they're from other countries, and nobody that's been a United States citizen I've seen make a video about this. I am born and raised in the United States. I came back from Spain around 3 weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago now. And I was detained when I came in for about 2.5 hours. Mind you, I have global entry. This should have not happened to begin with. Scanned my eyes, the checkmark went green. I thought I could continue walking. No, they had me pulled to the side, put in like this little box area. Another officer came and grabbed me. I was taken to around 5 different officers. Every single one of them told me they could not tell me the reason as to why I was being detained. I was treated like a literal animal. My father is an immigrant, but he is a United States citizen. He's been in America for the last 25 years, if not longer. Yet they asked me about his citizenship status when he immigrated here and all his details that I would not know. Then asked to vet my social media for all my social media accounts, including Snapchat, TikTok, and Instagram, as well as Facebook, and to show them proof of my income. They were asking some of the most intrusive questions, and when I tell you, they were transferring me from room to room, officer to officer. And the absolute last thing that was said to me is if I have any trips planned, why, when, where, and for how long would I go? When I told the officer no, he then screamed in my face a good 4 times, repeating the same exact question.
Similar to, but not nearly at the same scale as Hasan, this woman pointed out that she criticizes the president on some of her social media accounts and even sells merchandise on a small scale that voices opposition to him. It's clear that the spread of knowledge about the reality of their actions is what they're threatened by. It's no different than any other authoritarian regime that suppresses access to social media in general, out of fear that their society will work together to oppose the destruction of human and civil rights.
I was coming back from Spain. I was in Spain for about a month or so. I had a layover in Berlin, Germany for around 2 hours, and then I came into the United States. Here's my global entry card, because a lot of you guys don't believe that I did have global entry. Yes, I do have global entry, and this still happens to me. I still got detained. I went through the global entry line, they scanned my eyes, and I continued walking. It had the green check mark, and then an officer told me I needed to go to the right. So I go to the right, I get asked questions by another officer. He asked me where I'm coming from and what I did for work. I answered TikTok, as I do have other accounts that I am very social on that have thousands of followers. Then he asked me to step into this box-looking thing. It's about, 3 sides, and then he told me another officer will come and grab me. That officer then took me to a room, which I did insert a photo of, and I will give you guys again here. Which this is the first room I was taken to. That other room, the officer asked me what I did for work, exactly why I was traveling. I said the same thing. I did TikTok, and that's why I was traveling, and I wanted to stay there for longer. Then there's rooms, and that's where they asked me to provide my social media accounts for them to go through my TikTok, my Snapchat, my Instagram, my Facebook, as well as show them how much I was making daily on TikTok and show them the deposits that were being made on TikTok. And again, why I was traveling. It's the same questions all over again.
The invasive approach that she endured already went further than anything Haas experienced, as he never gave them access to his phone. He mentioned later that even though he was answering all of their questions for the sake of just seeing how far they'd take it, handing over his phone was his red line. But despite her high level of cooperation, her interrogation got much more aggressive.
From that point, after taking my phone, my passport, all my bags, they had asked me when, where, and why if I had any trips planned, and when, where, and why. And for how long? I had no clue. I still don't have a clue. I do not plan to leave the US yet. So I answered no, and he proceeded to literally scream in my face 4 times, and I told him no every single time. After about 2.5 hours to 3 hours, and during this entire thing, I was finally let go after telling them no, that I had no plans to leave the United States. I was, again, handed to around 5 different officers. I'm not sure if I made that clear, and put in around 3 to 4 different rooms. I believe 4. I also want to let you guys know that I am very political on my accounts. I literally have a clothing brand called Trump for the Dump, making meme shirts of Trump, and then it's a non-profit, so we donate to organizations that he's defunding. I also want to say that I post on my Instagram stories and my TikTok a lot of things anti-Trump and anti-MAGA, whatever you want to call it. So that is a red flag for them. So yeah, my Instagram wasn't completely clean. They didn't do anything about it. They kind of just took my phone and searched through everything. I don't really know what they were looking for. I don't have more answers. I complied with every single thing that they asked. I didn't give them a hard time about anything because I'm more scared than anything.
So it's very important for people that experience these kinds of interactions and violations of our rights to tell their stories, so that if or when these Nazi copycats come to detain anyone, from someone like Haas with millions of views and subscribers to this other woman with tens of thousands of subscribers and merch customers, is prepared to know what their rights really are, even if this administration's law enforcement is ready to violate them. She's now concerned that her phone is compromised after they had it in their possession. And really, who knows? But that's definitely part of the fear and intimidation that they purposely look to convey. Because we're way past arguing over whether or not they're fascists. We're in the stage of having to fight back against it. And it starts with as many people knowing exactly what they're doing as possible.
Since you mentioned that, you talk about the things that you talk about. Do you talk about the news? And I was like, yeah, I talk about the news. And he kept saying, okay, so when you talk about the news, do you talk about the war? And I was like, what do you mean by that? He's like, do you talk about Trump? And there were definitely areas where I was very revealing about my position, knowing full well that they know exactly what they're looking for. I saw no reason to hold back on certain things. So I said, I don't like Trump. I was like, what are you going to do? It's protected by the First Amendment. I don't like Trump. Yes. Right. Like, I was like, I'm not fond of him. I don't like him. He said he was going to end the wars. He hasn't ended the wars. What the is up with that? They bracket you into different categories. For me, they wanted to conduct an investigation about my involvement with Hamas and my involvement with the Houthis, or they suspected my involvement with Hezbollah. Straight up. That's literally what this conversation was about. And it's not even a joke. Like, they literally tried to get something out of me that I think they could use to basically detain me permanently. My big fear from the entire situation was, like, if they were to ask for my phone. Not that there's anything incriminating in my phone, but I don't want the federal government inside of my phone beyond the, beyond all of the times where they probably have been engaging in, like, warrantless surveillance on my phone or whatever like, it's not your business. You know what I mean? It's none of your business. It's a goddamn free country. Like, there's privacy laws for this kind.